Hi, in this video I will talk about Oracle Fusion Assets Impairment. So this video will describe the Assets Impairment feature in Oracle Fusion Assets that is designed to meet IAS as International Accounting Standards impairment of assets. Let's start talk about overview of the impairment processes that for the IAS as an international accounting standard addresses accounting and reporting of impairment of assets. The accounting standard provides that assets should not be carried at more than their recoverable amounts. Requires entities to carry out impairment tests for all their tangible and intangible assets other than assets in certain specified categories. For example, inventories, construction, contract assets, financial assets, non-current assets classified as held for sale. The basic mechanism of accounting impairment is as follows. Companies must measure an asset's recoverable amount, the higher of the assets or cash generating units fair values, less costs to sell and its value in use, and compare that to the book value. The value in use equals the future cash flow to be generated by the assets or the cash generating unit, discounted at current market risk-free return rate, adjusted for uncertainty, that is the risk inherent to the asset. If the book value is higher than the recoverable amount, then impairment loss needs to be recognized for the assets or cash generating unit as CGU. If the book value is less than the recoverable amount, then impairment loss need not be recognized for the assets or CGU as a cash generating unit. If the asset has previously impaired, part of the previous impairment loss has to be reversed. Some of definitions or our glossary. That carrying amount. Carrying amount is the amount at which an asset is recognized after deducting any accumulated depreciation and accumulated impairment losses therein. CGU as a cash generating unit is the smallest identifiable group of assets that generates cash inflow that are largely independent of the cash inflows from other assets or group of assets. Costs of disposal. That costs of disposal are incremental costs directly attributable to the disposal of an asset or CGU, excluding finance costs and income tax expense. Depreciable amount is the cost of assets or other amounts substituted for cost in the financial statement less its residual value. Depreciation is a systematic allocation of the depreciable amount of an asset over its useful life. Impairment loss is the amount by which the carrying amount of an asset or cash generating unit as CGU exceeds its recoverable amount. Recoverable amount of an asset or cash generating unit is the higher of net selling price and its value in use. Net selling price, the amount obtainable from the sale of an asset in a bargained transaction between knowledgeable willing parties less the costs of disposal. Value in use is the present value of the future cash flow expected to be derived from an asset or CGU. Useful life is either the period of time over which an asset is expected to be used by the entity or the number of production or similar units expected to be obtained from the assets by the entity. Net book value as a NPV, assets cost minus depreciation reserve as accumulated depreciation and impairment reserve. Historical net book value, the carrying amount that would have been determined as the net of amortization or depreciation had no impairment loss been recognized for the assets in prior accounting periods. Assets cost minus depreciation reserve as a minus accumulated depreciation. Impairment loss reversal gain is the amount by which the recoverable amount or historic net book value, which is less of an asset or CGU, exceeds its carrying amount. Impairment's applicability: that for the IAS as international accounting standards, impairment applies to all assets except inventories, assets arising from construction contracts, deferred tax assets, assets arising from employee benefits, financial assets, investment property carried at fair value, certain agriculture assets carried at fair value, insurance contract assets, assets held for sale. Therefore, for the IAS applies to land, buildings, machinery and equipment, investment property carried at cost, intangible assets, goodwill, investments in subsidiaries, societies and joint ventures, assets carried at revalued amounts under IAS and 16 and IAS 38. How impairment expense or loss is calculated? Impairment occurs when carrying amount or net book value more than or higher than value or in use or net selling price. How impairment expense or loss is calculated can be seen in this picture. In this example, we have a value in use which is higher than the fair value or net selling price. So here the calculation is as follows. Impairment loss equal cost minus depreciation reserve as accumulated depreciation minus value on use, or impairment loss equal carrying amount as a net book value minus value in use. The calculation formula is the same no matter the level, assets or cash generating unit on which it is made. If the impairment transaction is performed at the cash generating unit at the CGU level, then the net book value is calculated as the sum of the assets values that belong to the CGU and compared with the recoverable cost of the CGU. Calculate impairment loss is distributed to each assets upon the net book value ratio of each assets. Impairments are always amortized. NBV is as at end of current period and includes depreciation amount of the current period. When assets has revaluation reserve balance, the impairment loss calculated is the first decreased the revaluation reserve balance and the remaining amount, if any, will be charged to impairment loss expense. Impairment examples, as you see here, we will look at this example. If we have assets cost 1000, methods straight line forward as 5 years, so annual depreciation will be 1000 divided by 5 years equal 200. After 2 years we have the following situations. Cost will be the same, depreciation reserve as accumulated depreciation will be 400, carrying amount or net book value NBV is 600, market value or fair value or net selling price is 400, value in use is 350. So the impairment loss equal the cost, which is 1000, minus depreciation reserve 400 minus these values as 400, that net selling price, which value in use also 350, or net selling price for 400, which equal 200, or we can follow the other formula, that carrying amount or net book value 600 minus net selling price 400, value in use 350, net selling price equal 400, so it equals the same 200. So either you follow this formula, all these formulas, the result will be the same. This is for example that for impairment. So what is the impairment prerequisite setup in Oracle Cloud? We have to update the books to allow impairment, and others we have to set up impairment expense, impairment reserve account for each asset category assigned to the asset book. So here for the impairment, let's get into applications. Just log in and navigate to the setup and maintenance, search by asset book to allow impairment assets. Manage asset books, manage asset book. So search the book, edit. Impairments need to be enabled for the asset book. This is first step. Once you allow impairment, just go to manage assets categories, and in manage assets categories search for the appropriate asset category and edit it in the accounts tab of the accounting rules region. This is for the assets. Now I will look for our category to put or set up impairment expense and impairment reserve account. This is our categories, which is major and minor. Just update or edit, go to down, select the proper books and put impairment expense, impairment reserve. This is required. Save and close. After that, there is another steps, that cash generating unit as a CGU. As we said before, that recoverable amount should be determined for each individual assets. It is not possible to estimate the recoverable amount as a net selling price or the value in use of the individual assets. An enterprise should determine the recoverable amount of the cash generating unit to which the assets belongs. A cash generating unit is the smallest identifiable group of assets that generate cash inflow from continuing using, that are largely independent of the cash inflows from other assets or group of assets. For example, a mining enterprise owns a private railway to support its mining activities. The private railway could be sold only for scrap value, and the private railway doesn't generate cash inflow from continuing use, that are largely independent of the cash inflow from other assets of the mine. It's not possible to estimate recoverable amount of the private railway because its value in use cannot be determined and properly is different from its value as scrap. Therefore, the entity will have to estimate the recoverable amount of the cash generating unit as a CGU to which the railway provides service, for example, mine as a whole. If you are using CGU as a cash generating unit, then you also need to define as many CGUs as required through navigate to setup task manage cash generating units with the setup implementation. Just come back to here. Again, from the setup and maintenance, and search for cash generating unit as a CGU. Manage cash generating units for fixed assets. Again, you have to just enter the name and the book and descriptions and enabled. After that, you can assign this CGU to the assets. From the assets, there are a lot of choice list is available, either through during adding the assets you can assign CGU, or edit source line, or add assets and prepare source line as ADFDI spreadsheets, or change financial details. For example, if I go to assets, select assets and adjust assets, for example, I will put the assets number, search, I can select, can change financial details, I can go to down, you will find CGU as cash generating unit. You can assign it from here, or during add assets, or edit source line, or add assets and prepare source line ADFDI spreadsheets. Cash generating unit is optional, can be changed from CGU value to another, or can be made null. The only restriction that if impairment transaction has occurred for the assets in the current period, then the CGU assignment cannot be changed in the current period unless the impairment is undone or rolled back. This is the usage of CGU. After that, you can submit or whatever. So now navigate to do our practice. Done. We can just make inquiry of our assets to take a screenshot before do our impairment process. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is our assets. If we took a screenshot, as you see here, net book value 958, the cost is 1000, year-to-date depreciation as and the depreciation reserve is 41 as accumulated depreciation. This is before we do the impairment. Okay, I will come back to the home page and go to select impair assets. Okay, go to home, assets, go to tasks and impair assets. In this page you can create, update, rollback, query and view the in progress as well as completed impairment transactions. The page has search area where you can search per your impairment and the result tables. The result tables display the details both at asset level, cash generating unit level, depending on at what level the impairment is created. Even though impairment can be entered against multiple CGUs or assets, when they are queried they will be broken and displayed by CGU or asset number respectively. Here, if you are going to search, this is search after you complete the impairment process, but now we are going to create. Again, impairment transaction is an amortized transaction, and accordingly you cannot perform any more expensive transactions after posting the impairment to the assets. For impairment, the amortization start date will be the same as impairment date. As we said that to create, you just click on create. Click on create, select the book and click next button. Create impairment ADVDI spreadsheet will be opened to enter impairment data. To create impairment loss for an asset or CGU, select transaction type as impairment. This is our file. Open it. Just unblock the look. Apply. OK. Open. System will ask you to enter your username and password. OK. I just entered the username and password as you see here. Then you can enter either impairment loss amount directly to each asset or provide the net selling price and or value in use for each asset. When the net selling price and or value in use are provided, Oracle Fusion Assets calculates the impairment loss for the assets. So first of all, what is the transaction group? We can make impairment asset on. What is the impairment date? I will select the current date of the current open period of our book, which is 31 of December. Here, as you see that which is required, which is optional, blah blah blah. So first of all, that you can enter again either impairment loss amount directly to each asset or provide the net selling price and or value in use for each asset. When the net selling price and or value in use are provided, again Oracle Fusion Assets calculates the impairment loss for the assets. Alternative, the impairment loss can be calculated as the CGU level, cash generating unit. In this case also you can enter either impairment loss amount directly to each CGU or provide net selling price and or value in use for each of CGU. When the net selling price and or value in use are provided, the Oracle Fusion again Assets calculates impairment loss for the CGU and allocate that impairment loss among all the assets in that CGU. You cannot enter value for all three fields: net selling price, value in use, and the impairment loss. The upload program will mark such as a row as error. The error message received in the spreadsheet in that case that you must enter either value for the net selling price or the value in use or both. You can also enter as you see here a goodwill data as details asset number. If you entered goodwill amount or goodwill assets number, if both are entered, the system will use the goodwill amount for calculation and the goodwill assets number for account derivation. If only the goodwill assets is entered, then the entire net book value of the goodwill assets will be considered for impairment loss calculation. After that, the status can be either new, preview, if uploading. For example, as you see here that the status here either new or preview. If uploading the data with status new, the data will only be saved. No impairment loss will be calculated. To calculate the impairment loss, the data needs to be uploaded with status preview. The process impairment program will first validate all the values entered and then compares the book value of the assets with the higher of net selling price or value in use and determines if there is an impairment. If an impairment exists, then the impairment amount will be allocated to the individual assets by giving consideration to goodwill, reevaluation reserve, etc. Impairment transaction in status new can be queried and updated by the users at any time. Only impairment in status previewed can be posted to the assets, and these impairments have to be updated and previewed before posting. To edit impairments, query them in Impair Assets page. You have to select them, click edit icon, we will see it later also. This will upload again impairment transactions in the update impairment ADFDI spreadsheet. Again, you can have to search to show impairment information at assets or CGU level. This will be more than one row display. Now again, we have to enter our data. Here we said that either enter CGU to make impairment to all of assets which is assigned to CGU, or enter the assets number. I will make it for one asset, is our assets 1, 2, 3, 4, 81. This is our assets. And also you have to ensure that the category of these assets is we assigned our two expense impairment and impairment reserve, and also we assign the CGU if we are going to make impairment by the CGU. What is the impairment? Either new or preview. If you upload for new, again you have to download the same sheet to update it from new to preview. This new just for information to check whatever. Preview, after you upload preview successfully, you can post this impairment process. So I will select preview. What is the net selling price? I will put 500. We said either put net selling price and the value in use, or both. Let the system calculate impairment loss. Goodwill, I don't have any goodwill. That's it. Try to submit. I just click here, submit. Okay, row inserted successfully. There is one request has been submitted as a process. So again, it's uploaded successfully, so I will cancel. So we can come back to impairment assets to looking for it. We can put search. We have uploaded is our transaction group, impairment assets, and previewed. For this status, you have a lot of actions here. You can edit, you can post patch, you can delete. After posted, you have another impairment actions that you can roll back the impairment process. As you see here, that impairment loss is 449. After that, you can make post, you can edit. Once you make edit, it will again download the spreadsheet, ADFDI spreadsheets, to update either the value, whatever, the status, the assets, whatever. You can again change it from preview to new. You can make net selling price any other amount, whatever, and again submit. You can also delete and try again to do it from scratch. You can post. So I will select and make a post. Okay, there is one process for impairment process. And also, once you upload the ADFDI spreadsheets and you get here error or whatever, you can go and navigate to the monitor process to check the log file. In some cases you got some errors from the log files, and here just refresh to check the status, either error or what. For example, I before got one error, and I got error like this: you cannot charge impairment to assets blah 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 because the net book value at the end current is 0 or less than impairment loss. For these errors, you have to set up that lookup, this lookup here. This is our error message that you have to go to manage fixed assets lookup, search by these lookups as aura FA imp over depreciation limit, and create. So let's navigate to the manage fixed assets lookup. Here all of them succeeded. After that you can make a create accounting, depreciation, whatever, to check the accounting entries of the impairment. So I will again, if you go to assets to check the status before it was previewed, now if I go to impair and select the book search, it will be posted. After posted, what you have to do, you can either roll back, yes, you can roll back again, like a roll back to delete it, to edit, whatever. This is in case of the impairment status is posted. Now if you go to create accounting, we can go to from here, select the book, select the end date, we can put in draft in detail, just submit to show you the accounting entries, and until the accounting is finished I just navigate to the lookup to show you the setup in case of you found like this error. This is manage fixed assets lookup. This one again, and search for aura underscore fa underscore impairment over depreciation. This one over depreciation limit, this is defined by Oracle or whatever by users. So just go to down and create a new one and put the lookup code is your asset book name, the same asset book name. After that you can put reference dataset for either specific reference dataset or common, and make it enabled and make the meaning anything. So you just look for this, which is defined before by the Oracle, and come here to create and add in the lookup code your asset book name as we mentioned here. Search, don't create, so from action create, put from this region create a new record with what, with the book name in lookup code. So let's come back to monitor and the process to check the execution report. This is one, just go to down publish and document, it will and open. This is accounting entries as a draft. If you go to down, you will find the accumulated depreciation impairment journals, which is loss credited and impairment loss debited. As we said before, that this is calculated depends on our calculations, which is was cost minus depreciation reserves minus net selling price as our 500. So this, it will be 1000 as a cost minus net book value minus 500, which is giving you 449.60. Again, after that, after posting create accounting whatever, you can come back to the assets impairment and do the rollback. To roll back, we can also roll back now to show you the status after that. Assets and impair assets, search by book or by date, whatever. Again, I can come here and make rollback. Okay, there is one process is submitted. Come back here to impair. Again, search. It will be deleted. Deleted means that you roll back. Again, you have to create and select the book, put everything in the ADFDI spreadsheet and upload it. Done. This is the impairment process, the status, the errors, the lookups, the setups, the definitions. After that, this is in case of you face these errors, there is some lookups you have to define that you can do an impairment up to net book value equal 0 amount. Impairment frequently asked questions that how to post bulk impairment in assets. Currently we cannot select impairment status. There is no way to post bulk impairment in assets, as currently there is no REST API or FBDI for impairment transaction in assets. Currently we cannot select impairment status preview field. For example, in some cases, once you upload the impairment process, you find that in status preview field, during a lot of reasons that you didn't assign the accounts for impairment reserve, impairment expense to the categories, you put the values in CGU and assets number, a lot of reasons. So instead you got the status is previewed, you will get it as preview field. Once you come back here to search by preview field, there is no preview field. So this is the questions how to select or search by status preview field. You just go to advanced button as you see here, and you can go to impairment start with. You can put in the start with preview field, and you can search. You will get all of the transactions which is in preview field, because in basic search you will not find this status. Again, preview field, that again I will show you. For example, I will come back to the assets category. Okay, to remove this assets impairment and assets expense, for example, asset manage asset categories again, and book, our book, search. This is one. Okay, I can select proper book. I will remove impairment, for example. Save and close. Done. Again, come back to the assets impairment and try to upload impairment asset. Create one. Okay, select the book, open, unlock the security. Again, open, select the same data again, and enter here. For example, here the same, that, and December 31. Okay, put our assets, or you can double click to search, because this is list of values. Again, okay, impairment review, and net selling. Again, try to submit. Okay, try to come back to our book. Here, this is what I told you before, preview field. For the preview field, in case of you need to search here in the preview field, you will not find preview field. But in case of you need to know where is the reason or whatever, you just come back to monitor process and search for the log file. Here there is error. Go to log file and search. In some case you will not find the reasons or clear reason in the log file. Here, as you see here, because impairment account what are not set up in the category. So from here you can come back to the assets category update, and again you can delete or edit this impairment. If you come back here to impair to check what is the actions is available for you in case of you need to, once you put the assets accounts impairment, as you see here, again you can edit, you can delete and restart the process from scratch, or you can edit to download again the DFDI spreadsheets to entered and upload it again. This is what I mentioned here, that there is no preview. You can search advanced and debut, and this not only in impairment status only. You can any search area for Oracle. If you didn't find specific name, specific status, specific description, whatever, just change the mode to advanced and search, and you can go to find. As you see here, if you are in English, you have sort impairment status, or Japanese sort status column by ascending and descending. What else we have? User cannot enter adjustment with backdate of impairment assets. You cannot perform transaction on the same date or in the same physical years as previously entered impairment transactions. This is intended behavior that any backdated transaction like adjustment, transfer, retirement want to be allowed if impairment exists in the same physical year. So the solutions that you have to set current month's date of amortization start date. If you need to adjust depreciation amount, you just please enter override depreciation. But you cannot perform transactions on the same date or in the same physical years as a previously entered impairment transactions. What else we have? That assets impairment posting are stuck in running post as a batch, that there are more than 2,500 assets to post, so the impairment process will be finished with status error. You have to split the data into multiple batches. User should be able to create a new impairment batch for the asset to be impaired, set in preview status and submit. If successfully previewed, then can post the impairments. The problems batch can stay as is. It will not cause any issues further. Currently, there is no option to delete the stuck impairment in the running post status. So Oracle recommended to split the data into multiple batches. Either upload the opening balance, impairment, transfers, whatever. Try to divide it into 2, 3, 4 batches. It will be better for you. After that, you just put the status as a preview. Once you previewed, you make a submit, like what I did before. This is the impairment process, impairment frequently asked questions, impairment definitions, impairment setup or prerequisites. Thanks for watching.